The planet Viscerus was a brutal graveyard of ambition, its jagged terrain carved by millennia of war and despair. Yet, for Captain Mara Solis, it wasn't the graveyard that mattered, but the promise of salvation buried within its ruins. The acrid winds screamed through the ruins like vengeful ghosts, carrying the scent of decay and forgotten battles. Acidic winds howled across the surface, carving grooves into the ancient ruins that dotted the horizon. Among these remnants of a long-dead civilization lay the Temple of the Sentinel, a place shrouded in legend and fear. For centuries, species from across the galaxy had ventured into its depths, chasing the legend of an artifact said to embody the power of a forgotten god. Yet, every attempt to claim it had ended in failure. Some whispered of an ancient judgment, an unseen force that measured the unworthy and cast them aside without mercy. Others whispered of the armor's sentience, claiming it judged the worthiness of those who sought it. Whatever the truth, one fact remained: no alien had ever been chosen. The most recent expedition to the temple had ended in tragedy. An elite team of Tendarian warriors, renowned for their strength and resilience, had been reduced to smoldering ashes before they even set eyes on the artifact. News of their failures spread quickly, turning the Temple of the Sentinel into a symbol of hopeless ambition. That was until Captain Mara Solis arrived. Mara stepped off the landing platform, her boots crunching against the corroded metal. The stale air of Viscerus bit at her lungs, but she paid it no mind. Her focus was on the towering structure before her, the temple. Its monolithic spires jutted into the toxic sky, etched with runes that pulsed faintly with an eerie green light. "You're insane, Captain," muttered Ezra Valdez, her trusted engineer and reluctant partner on this mission. His voice crackled through her comms as he monitored her progress from the safety of the ship. "Every report says this thing kills anything that gets close. Why do you think you'll be different?" Mara adjusted the strap of her utility pack and smirked. "Because I don't believe in curses, Ezra. And because someone has to try." "Trying doesn't mean volunteering to die," Ezra countered. "I'm just saying the odds aren't exactly in your favor." "Noted," she replied dryly, cutting the connection before his pessimism could take root in her mind. As she approached the entrance, the temple seemed to sense her presence. The runes along its surface brightened, their glow intensifying with every step she took. A low hum filled the air, resonating deep within her chest. Mara paused, one hand resting on the hilt of her plasma blade. She had faced death before, but there was something uniquely unsettling about this place, as though it were alive and watching her. The massive stone doors before her slid open with a groan, revealing a dark corridor lined with intricate carvings. Each carving seemed to tell a fragmented story: warriors battling colossal beasts, civilizations crumbling under relentless storms, and a solitary figure encased in radiant armor standing defiantly amidst the chaos. The air thrummed with an ancient energy, as if the stories themselves were alive, whispering secrets long forgotten. The air within was frigid, carrying the faint metallic tang of ancient stone mixed with the acrid scent of decay. Each breath Mara took seemed heavier, as though the temple itself pressed against her lungs. Each depicted a scene of battle, with a figure clad in the legendary armor standing victorious against monstrous foes. Mara stepped inside, her pulse quickening as the doors slammed shut behind her, sealing her in. The interior of the temple was both awe-inspiring and unnerving. The walls seemed to shift subtly, as though alive with an energy she couldn't quite comprehend. Her footsteps echoed in the vast chamber, accompanied by the faint whispers of the wind filtering through cracks in the structure. As Mara ventured deeper, she came across the remains of previous expeditions. Charred armor pieces lay scattered among fractured weapons, their surfaces blackened and brittle, as if scorched by an inferno. Some fragments clung to the floor, fused to the stone as though the heat had been inescapable, a silent testament to the ferocity of the temple's trials. A broken helmet rested against the wall, its visor cracked, offering a haunting glimpse of the void it once shielded. The faint scent of burnt metal lingered in the air, mingling with the oppressive silence, each artifact a chilling reminder of the temple's lethal trials. Charred armor, shattered weapons, and scorch marks littered the ground, each a grim testament to the fate of those who had come before her. She knelt beside a twisted piece of metal that might once have been a gauntlet, her fingers brushing against its surface. "What happened to you?" she murmured, her voice barely audible. A sudden noise, like the hiss of steam escaping a valve, snapped her out of her thoughts. She rose to her feet, her blade humming to life as she scanned the chamber. The hum grew louder, morphing into a deep, resonant tone that seemed to emanate from the very walls. Then she saw it. At the center of the chamber, the armor rested on a pedestal bathed in ethereal light, its surface shimmering like liquid starlight. Its angular edges and pulsing blue veins radiated an almost hypnotic energy, as though it were alive, waiting for its next bearer. It shimmered like liquid starlight, its angular edges catching the faint light in a mesmerizing display. The veins of blue energy running across its surface pulsed with a hypnotic rhythm, as though the armor itself was alive, waiting for its next bearer. It was unlike anything Mara had imagined. Sleek and angular, it seemed to shimmer with a liquid-like quality, as though it were both solid and ethereal. Its dark surface was adorned with glowing veins of blue energy that pulsed in rhythm with the hum filling the air. Mara approached cautiously, her heart pounding. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, but she pressed on, her resolve unshaken. She had come too far to stop now. The moment she reached the pedestal, the hum ceased. The silence was deafening, stretching on for what felt like an eternity. Then without warning the armor moved. Its pieces shifted and reconfigured, snapping into place with a precision that defied logic. It was as though it were coming to life. A voice echoed through the chamber, deep and resonant, yet distinctly mechanical. You are not of this world, Mara froze. No, she said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through her veins. I'm human. The voice paused as if considering her words. Many have come. None have been worthy. Why do you seek me? Mara took a deep breath. I don't seek power, she said. I seek hope. My people are at the brink of extinction, and I'll do whatever it takes to save them. The chamber fell silent once more. Then the armor began to glow, its energy flaring brighter as it levitated off the pedestal. Mara raised a hand to shield her eyes as it moved toward her, piece by piece, encasing her in its otherworldly embrace. Pain shot through her as the armor fused with her body, searing like molten fire threading through her veins. Her thoughts raced, a chaotic tangle of fear and resolve, as the alien energy surged through her. For a moment, it felt as though her very essence was being rewritten, every cell forced to adapt or shatter. Despite the agony, Mara's determination burned brighter, a single thought anchoring her. This is for them. For survival, each pulse of energy felt both alien and intimate, a visceral bond forging itself into her very being. Her breath hitched, her vision blurred, and yet she held firm, the armor's strength overwhelming but undeniable. She gritted her teeth, refusing to cry out. When the process was complete, the hum returned, louder and more resonant than ever. You are chosen, the voice declared. Bear the weight of this power and prove your worth, Mara opened her eyes, her vision sharper and more vivid than before. She looked down at herself, the armor gleaming in the dim light. She felt its strength, its intelligence, as though it were alive and connected to her in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. I'll prove it, she said, her voice filled with determination. Whatever it takes. But as the temple began to tremble and the ground beneath her feet shifted, she realized that proving her worth might require confronting challenges far beyond mere survival, a test that would demand both her strength and the depths of her humanity. The tremors shook the temple violently, sending dust cascading from the high ceilings. The floor beneath Mara vibrated like a living thing, each jolt accompanied by a low, guttural rumble that seemed to echo from the depths of the ancient structure. Mara steadied herself, her armored hands gripping the edge of the pedestal. The armor's presence was overwhelming, its energy coursing through her like a second pulse. She could feel it, alive, aware and waiting. Prove your worth, the voice echoed again, this time resonating directly in her mind. It wasn't just a command, it was a challenge. Before Mara could respond, the ground beneath her split open, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling into darkness. The temple seemed to shift, its ancient walls groaning as though the structure itself were alive and adapting. A faint, otherworldly light emanated from below, casting eerie shadows on the jagged stone walls. Ezra, she called out through her comms, her voice firm but edged with urgency. The temple is changing. I'm going deeper. Changing? Ezra's voice crackled back, thick with concern. Mara, you need to get out of there. Whatever this thing is, it's not playing by any rules we understand. Neither am I, Mara replied, her grip tightening on her blade. She took a breath, steeling herself before descending into the abyss. The staircase seemed endless, the air growing colder with every step. Each breath Mara took burned in her lungs, the chill clawing at her skin through the armor. The oppressive darkness pressed against her, stirring whispers of doubt, but she pushed forward, her resolve hardening with each step. The faint glow from the armor provided just enough light to see by, but it did little to dispel the oppressive darkness pressing in from all sides. The walls were etched with more carvings, these far more violent and chaotic than those above. They depicted figures, beasts, warriors and something in between, engulfed in flames or torn apart by unseen forces. The deeper she went, the louder the whispers became. They weren't words but fragments of thoughts, emotions and memories. Mara clenched her jaw, refusing to let them distract her. The armor seemed to respond, its energy pulsing in rhythm with her resolve. Finally the staircase ended, opening into a vast chamber. The air was thick and humid, the faint scent of ozone mingling with something metallic. In the center of the room stood a massive circular platform, surrounded by spires of jagged stone. The ground was marked with intricate, glowing symbols that seemed to twist and shift, their meaning unknowable yet profoundly unsettling. They pulsed in sync with the chamber's hum, radiating a faint heat that prickled at Mara's skin, as though daring her to step closer. Step forward, the voice commanded, now cold and unyielding. Mara obeyed, her boots echoing against the stone as she approached the platform. As soon as she stepped onto it, the symbols flared to life, bathing the chamber in blinding light. The spires trembled and the air vibrated with an intense hum. From the light emerged 3 towering figures, their forms shimmering as though caught between dimensions. Their movements were unsettlingly smooth, like waves flowing against gravity, and wherever they stepped, the stone beneath seemed to ripple as if alive. The air grew heavy, charged with an electric tension that prickled Mara's skin and made her breaths shallow. They were humanoid, but their features were distorted, their limbs too long, their movements unnaturally fluid. Their bodies glowed faintly, runes etched into their skin pulsating in tandem with the platform's light. You have been chosen, the central figure said, its voice layered and resonant. But worthiness must be earned, The figures raised their hands, and the air around Mara erupted with energy. Blades of pure light formed in the hands of her challengers, their edges crackling with lethal intent. Mara instinctively raised her plasma blade, its hum dwarfed by the power radiating from her opponents. Without warning, the first figure lunged, its movements impossibly fast. Mara barely had time to parry, the clash of their weapons sending a shockwave through the chamber. The force pushed her back, her armored boots skidding across the stone. The second figure attacked before she could recover, its blade arcing toward her with deadly precision. Mara twisted, the armor responding in perfect sync with her movements. She countered with a swift strike, her blade slicing through the air and forcing her opponent to retreat. The third figure circled her, its eyes, or what passed for eyes, glowing with an unnatural intensity. Mara could feel its gaze piercing through her, probing her mind and soul. It didn't move to attack, but its presence was suffocating, an unrelenting pressure that threatened to break her focus. The battle was relentless. The challengers moved as one, their attacks coordinated with a precision that left no openings. One feinted to her left while another struck from above, forcing Mara to twist and parry in a desperate dance of survival. Her blade sparked as it clashed with theirs, each impact resonating through her arms. A sudden sweep from the third figure's blade grazed her side, the heat of its energy searing the air and sending her stumbling. Mara gritted her teeth, her mind racing as she searched for a way to break their unyielding rhythm. Mara fought with everything she had, her blade a blur of motion as she deflected strike after strike. The armor amplified her strength and speed, but it also demanded more of her. Each movement drained her, the energy coursing through her veins both a blessing and a curse. She stumbled, her breath ragged as the first figure struck her shoulder. The armor absorbed the blow, but the impact sent her sprawling to the ground. Pain lanced through her as the second figure closed in, its blade poised to deliver the final strike. Not yet, Mara growled, forcing herself to her feet. The armor flared with renewed energy, its glow intensifying as though responding to her defiance. She lunged forward, her blade slicing through the air with precision and power. The first figure dissolved into light, its form scattering like ash in the wind. The second and third figures hesitated, their movements faltering. Mara seized the opportunity, her attacks growing more aggressive. The second figure fell moments later, its blade clattering to the ground before its form disintegrated. The final figure stood motionless, its gaze fixed on her. Mara raised her blade ready to strike, but it didn't move. Instead it spoke. You fight not for power but for purpose. The armor has chosen well. The figure lowered its weapon, its form shimmering as it began to fade. But remember, Chosen One, power demands sacrifice. Your trial has only begun. The light in the chamber dimmed, casting long flickering shadows against the walls as the spires groaned and began to collapse. Stone fragments tumbled with a resonant crash, filling the air with a choking haze of dust and the acrid scent of ancient decay. The vibrations lingered, echoing like the dying breath of the temple itself. Mara collapsed to her knees, her blade slipping from her hand. The armor's energy receded, leaving her exhausted but alive. The platform beneath her glowed faintly, a single rune at its center pulsing like a heartbeat. Ezra, she said weakly, activating her calm, I'm still here. The armor, it accepted me. Ezra's voice came through, choked with relief. You're insane, but you're alive. What now? Mara forced herself to her feet, her gaze fixed on the glowing rune. Now I find out what this armor can really do. The chamber trembled once more, a hidden doorway opening on the far side. Beyond it, a path stretched into the unknown, illuminated by the faint glow of the armor. Mara gripped her blade and stepped forward, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The path beyond the hidden doorway was narrow, its walls alive with runes that pulsed in erratic patterns, their glow shifting unpredictably like embers caught in a breeze as Mara moved. The glow of the armor illuminated the passage, casting her shadow against the ancient stone. Each step echoed faintly, the sound swallowed by the oppressive silence. The air hung heavy with a metallic tang, and a faint vibration seemed to hum through the stone, as though the walls themselves were alive. Chosen. The voice resonated in her mind once more, calm yet authoritative. You have passed the first trial, but there is more to prove. The sentinel watches. Mara's hand instinctively tightened around her blade. Who is the sentinel? She asked, her voice steady despite the unease creeping into her chest. The one who decides. The voice replied cryptically. The armor does not grant power lightly. It must serve one who is resolute, one who understands sacrifice. The corridor opened into a cavernous space, the ceiling lost in darkness. Massive pillars stretched upward, their surfaces etched with countless symbols that shimmered faintly. At the center of the chamber stood an enormous figure carved from a single slab of obsidian. The sentinel. Its form was humanoid but otherworldly, its face devoid of features save for a single glowing eye that stared directly at Mara. Approach. The voice commanded. Mara hesitated, her instincts screaming caution. But there was no other path forward. Tightening her grip on the blade, she stepped toward the statue. As she drew closer, the ground beneath her feet vibrated, and the air grew thick with a palpable energy that made her skin prickle. The sentinel's eye flared, bathing the chamber in brilliant light that seemed to pierce straight into Mara's thoughts. Her chest tightened as the overwhelming brightness gave way to holographic images, each one a stark reminder of the devastation this power could unleash. She couldn't look away, the weight of the past and potential futures pressing heavily on her shoulders. Mara shielded her eyes with her arm as the light transformed into an array of holographic images that hovered around her. Each image depicted scenes of battle, destruction, and death, entire civilizations consumed by chaos. At the center of every scene stood a figure clad in the armor, wielding its immense power with devastating consequences. The armor has been a weapon of both salvation and annihilation. The voice intoned. Its bearer shapes its purpose. What will you choose? Mara's gaze flicked between the images, her chest tightening. The destruction was unimaginable, the power intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. I choose to protect, she said firmly. I'll use this power to defend those who can't defend themselves. The images dissipated, replaced by a blinding flash. When the light faded, the chamber was empty save for Mara and the sentinel. But something had changed. The air hummed with a subtle vibration, and the ground beneath her feet began to shift. The floor split into concentric rings that rotated slowly, creating a labyrinthine pattern that pulsed with light. Each rotation seemed to echo Mara's racing thoughts, her unease growing as the shifting ground mirrored her disorientation and uncertainty. Mara staggered, struggling to maintain her balance as the sentinel's eye flared once more. The walls shimmered, and from their surfaces emerged shadowy figures. They were faceless, their forms wreathed in a dark mist that seemed to devour the light around them. Face the shadows of your past, the voice declared. Only then can you master the armor. The shadows moved as one, encircling Mara with a predatory grace, their forms flickering like smoke caught in an invisible wind. The ground beneath her feet seemed to vibrate with their approach, amplifying the oppressive air as if the chamber itself recoiled from their presence. Each step they took reverberated through the chamber, their presence oppressive and suffocating. Mara's breath quickened as she raised her blade, the armor's energy surging in response. The first shadow lunged, its movements swift and unpredictable. Mara blocked its strike, her blade colliding with its incorporeal form in a clash that sent sparks flying. The impact jolted through her, and she realized the shadow was more than a mere projection. It was a manifestation of something deeply personal. Memories surged to the surface, unbidden and vivid. A battlefield. A decision. Lives lost because of her call. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "Not now." The shadow pressed its advantage, its strikes relentless. Mara gritted her teeth, forcing herself to focus. The armor responded, amplifying her speed and strength, but it wasn't enough. The shadow's presence seeped into her mind, dredging up doubts and regrets she had buried long ago. The second and third shadows joined the fray, their attacks synchronized and unyielding. Each represented a piece of Mara's past she had tried to forget. The betrayal of a trusted ally, the price of her ambition, the moment she had chosen survival over morality. The shadows fought not with weapons but with the weight of her own guilt, their blows striking deeper than any blade. Mara stumbled, her knees hitting the ground as the shadows loomed over her. Their forms pulsed with a dark light that seemed to drain the energy from the chamber. The sentinel's voice echoed, calm but unyielding. "The armor is not yours until you face yourself. "I'm not afraid," Mara growled, though the words rang hollow even to her own ears. The shadows closed in, their presence suffocating. Mara's fingers tightened around her blade, the armor's energy flaring in a desperate attempt to shield her. "You should be," one shadow hissed, its voice a distorted echo of her own. Mara's thoughts raced, her breath ragged. She couldn't fight them, not like this. The armor pulsed against her skin, its energy fluctuating as if waiting for her to act. But what could she do? They weren't enemies she could defeat with brute force. And then she understood. The armor wasn't just a weapon, it was a mirror. It demanded acceptance, not denial. Closing her eyes, Mara forced herself to take a deep breath. She lowered her blade, the motion deliberate and steady. "I see you," she said softly. "I see what I've done. I see who I was." The shadows hesitated, their forms wavering. Mara opened her eyes, meeting their faceless gazes. "But I also see who I can be. And I won't let you define me." The chamber pulsed with a brilliant light as the shadows began to dissolve, their forms breaking apart like smoke caught in a strong wind. The labyrinth stilled, its concentric rings locking into place as the light faded. The sentinel's voice returned, calm yet resonant. "You have faced the truth of your past. The armor is yours to wield." Mara sank to the ground, her body trembling with exhaustion. The weight of the trial lingered in her chest, not just as fatigue but as a quiet understanding of her own strength and fragility. She had faced the truths she feared most, and though drained, she felt a flicker of resolve reignite within her, a reminder of why she had to keep going. The armor's energy receded, leaving her drained but resolute. The sentinel's eye dimmed, and a new doorway opened on the far side of the chamber, its glow inviting but foreboding. "Ezra," Mara said into her calm, her voice steady despite the weight of what she had just endured. "The sentinel, it's done. I'm moving forward." "Mara," Ezra's voice crackled back, relief and concern mingling in his tone. "What's next?" She looked toward the glowing doorway, her grip on her blade firm. A shiver ran down her spine as she wondered what new trials lay ahead, the faint hum of the armor reminding her that each step forward was a step into the unknown. "Whatever comes, I'll be ready." With that, she stepped into the light. The light enveloped Mara, warm and blinding, as if the doorway itself were alive. The brilliance carried an almost tactile weight, wrapping around her like a cocoon and filling her senses with a hum of energy that resonated through her core. When the brilliance faded, she found herself standing in an immense chamber unlike anything she had encountered before. The walls seemed infinite, shimmering with cascading patterns of light and shadow. The sheer vastness of the space made Mara feel both insignificant and awestruck, as though she stood on the threshold of something far beyond mortal comprehension. Each flicker of light seemed to whisper a question. Would she rise to meet the challenge or be consumed by it? At the center of the room stood a towering obelisk, its surface etched with intricate runes that pulsed in time with her own heartbeat. Chosen. The sentinel's voice resonated around her, calmer now but still commanding. Asterisk, you have faced your past. Now you must prove your worth in the present. This is the final trial. Asterisk. The chamber rumbled as 3 colossal gates materialized on the far side of the room. Each gate was adorned with symbols, their meanings as inscrutable as the trials she had faced. From the gates emerged massive, otherworldly constructs, beasts of metal and energy that crackled with raw power. Their forms were angular and alien, their eyes glowing with a malevolent intelligence. Mara tightened her grip on the blade, the armor's glow intensifying as if responding to her determination. The constructs began to advance, their footsteps reverberating through the chamber like thunder. Each movement was deliberate, their towering forms exuding a relentless inevitability that sent a shiver down Mara's spine. The air seemed to vibrate with their presence, a suffocating weight that pressed down on her resolve, daring her to falter. Each step seemed to test the very ground she stood on, as if the room itself anticipated the coming battle. Asterisk, your choices define you, asterisk, the sentinel said. Asterisk, fight not with rage but with purpose. The armor will respond to your intent. Asterisk. Mara exhaled slowly, steadying herself. This wasn't just about strength. It was about control, about channeling the armor's immense power without succumbing to it. She raised her blade and surged forward, the armor's energy propelling her faster than she had ever moved. The first construct roared, its metallic jaws opening to unleash a torrent of energy. Mara darted to the side, the heat of the blast searing the air beside her. She countered with a calculated strike, her blade slicing through the construct's leg. Sparks erupted as the machine staggered, its balance disrupted. The second construct joined the fray, swinging a massive arm that crashed into the ground with an earth-shattering force, sending cracks rippling outward. The impact reverberated through the chamber like a thunderclap, the shockwave whipping up a cloud of dust and shaking the ground beneath Mara's feet. The impact sent shockwaves through the chamber, but Mara remained focused. She leaped onto the construct's arm, using its momentum to propel herself toward its head. The armor's energy surged as her blade pierced the construct's core, its glow dimming as the machine crumbled. The third construct was different. It hung back, observing her with an almost predatory intelligence. As Mara turned to face it, the chamber's energy seemed to shift, the air growing heavier. The construct raised its arms, and the runes on its surface began to glow, summoning tendrils of pure energy that lashed out at her. Mara gritted her teeth, deflecting the tendrils with her blade. Each strike drained her strength, the armor's energy fluctuating as it struggled to keep up. She could feel the weight of the trial bearing down on her, testing not just her skill but her resolve. Not today, she muttered, pushing forward. She dodged the tendrils and launched herself at the construct, her blade igniting with a brilliant light. With a single decisive strike, she drove the blade into its core, the construct's form disintegrating into a cascade of light. The chamber fell silent, the remnants of the constructs fading into the ether. The stillness that followed was almost deafening, a stark contrast to the chaos moments before. For Mara, the silence carried a profound weight, a recognition of victory hard won and the daunting responsibility it entailed. Mara stood in the center of the room, her breath ragged but steady. The obelisk began to glow brighter, its runes shifting to form patterns she could almost understand. A wave of awe and trepidation coursed through Mara as she realized the runes seemed to echo her own thoughts, a reflection of her newfound strength and the weight of her choices. Asterisk, you have proven your worth, asterisk, the sentinel's voice declared. Asterisk, the armor is now fully yours to wield. But with great power comes greater responsibility. You are no longer just a bearer of the armor. You are its guardian. Asterisk. Mara sank to one knee, the weight of the sentinel's words pressing down on her. She had won, but she understood the cost. The armor wasn't just a tool, it was a bond, a responsibility she could never cast aside. The obelisk shifted, revealing a small pedestal. Atop it rested a crystal sphere, its surface swirling with energy. The sentinel's voice continued, softer now. Asterisk, take this. It is the key to the armor's true potential. But be warned, the galaxy will come for it. Protect it, and you protect all that remains of hope. Asterisk. Mara rose, her hand trembling slightly as she reached for the sphere. The moment her fingers touched its surface, a surge of energy coursed through her, intertwining with the armor. Visions of countless futures flashed before her eyes, worlds saved, alliances forged, sacrifices made. Each image burned into her mind, filling her with both a sense of awe and a sobering realization of what lay ahead. The weight of these possibilities only sharpened her resolve, reminding her that every choice she made would shape the fate of countless lives. The responsibility was immense, but she accepted it. "I will protect it," she said firmly. The chamber began to dissolve, the walls melting into streams of light. Mara found herself back in the temple's main hall, the doorway behind her sealed. Ezra's voice crackled through her comms, relief evident in his tone. "Mara, are you alive? What happened?" "I'm here," Mara replied, her voice steady. "The armor is mine, and with it I accept the burden of its power. This is only the beginning of what I must protect." She stepped toward the temple's exit, the crystal sphere cradled in her hands. As she emerged into the harsh light of Viscerus, the winds howled around her, but she felt a calm resolve within. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but she was ready to face it. With the armor as her ally and the Sentinel's warning etched in her mind, Mara knew one thing for certain: she would not fail. The temple loomed behind her, silent and still, a monument to resilience and transformation. Its ancient walls bore witness to the trials she had endured, each scar etched in the stone a reflection of her own growth. It stood as a silent promise that even the greatest challenges could be met with resolve and courage. Its ancient walls bore witness to the trials she had endured, each scar etched in the stone a reflection of her own growth. It stood as a silent promise that even the greatest challenges could be met with resolve and courage. Ahead, the horizon stretched endlessly, filled with uncertainty and promise. And for the first time in a long while Mara smiled. "Let them come," she whispered, stepping into the light.